Welcome everyone, this is your host Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly partnered with the What the Funk shop. Please check out their store for all sorts of products. They have dice, miniatures, game master screens, home decorations, and many other things. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And make sure that you use my code for a special discount. Today, I wanted to talk about non-player character stats mastery in tabletop role-playing games. This is going to be useful both for solo role-playing games and traditional role-playing games that you play with your group, or even co-op role-playing games without a game master. I think this aspect is one of the most intimidating things for those that are trying to get into being a dungeon master, a game master, a referee, etc., in tabletop RPGs. They could consider, wow, as a player, you have so much on your plate with your character sheet, your powers, your abilities, your spells, etc., understanding your attributes or characteristics, skills, and whatnot. So just imagine being a dungeon master or game master, referee, whatnot. And you have so many non-player characters, and this is without counting everything else related to the world, the hazards, the various details concerning the cities, all of that. The adventure sites, the mysteries, the bloodlines, all of it. But when it comes to stats, this is actually one of the simplest things to handle as a dungeon master or game master. And you only need to go back to the origins of role playing in tabletop role playing games. The father of role playing, Dave Arneson, he used to surprise his group with all sorts of enemies. No matter the place that the adventurers were exploring, it seems like Dave Arneson already had the beasts at the ready, the creatures, the humanoids, the non player characters, they were already statted and ready to go. But here's the thing about Dave Arneson. A lot of the things that he used in his Blackmoor campaign, he came up with them on the go, but he was also consistent about this. So if you are thinking about running a game as a dungeon master or game master, instead of thinking, oh no, now I need to have all of the bestiaries open at the table or the PDF files, actual PDF files open in the computer, or I need to photocopy some things or print some things, etc. Like how cumbersome and difficult to manage, right? There are some ways of mitigating things, but I will show you an even easier way. So yes, it's always better to prepare beforehand to read the abilities, the feats, the powers, have an understanding of the creatures, right? But here is the best thing. As a dungeon master or game master, you only need to understand the basics of the system in order to have instant stats for any creature that the adventurers could encounter. Conventional creatures or even creatures that came out of nowhere that perhaps you come up with on the fly. Let me give you a basic example. Maybe you're running like a D20 based system. You only need to understand the hit points, the attack bonus, the armor class, and a generic modifier that you can apply for any other skill or power or ability or whatnot. So, if the adventurers are moving through a particular adventure site and they suddenly decide to storm what appears to be a guardhouse, you could be thinking, well, these guards, based on the context of the adventure, of course, they were not well prepared. They were actually like a bunch of bandits that were assembled as guards for the bandit hideout or whatever. They are not very trained, very skilled, so they get no bonus to their attack. Now you do not need to look up the attack constantly. I need to look up the attack value constantly. No, you already know that they have zero. You only roll a d20, and that's it. But what if the guards are a bit more prepared, right? Maybe they are seasoned bandits that turned into guards when the bandit lord took over the stronghold and now he assembled this group of more prepared individuals. Now their attack bonus is +1, right? And so forth. As they are more experienced, more prepared, you only need to remember that attack bonus. And if you want to add some individuality between the members, maybe one of the members is a bit like a sergeant, right? So maybe you give him a +3 or +4, depending on the situation. The same thing applies to hit points. How sturdy, agile, savvy are they when it comes to dealing with combat situations? Typical cannon fodder, 1 hit point. Those that are a bit more seasoned, just a bit, perhaps 3 hit points. And those that are a bit more prepared, 6 or 7 hit points. What about the sergeant? 10, 12 hit points, right? The armor class as well. How well equipped are those bandits? Oh, maybe their armor offers just enough protection. They have an armor class of, let's say, 8. Well, depending on the system that you are using. In D20 systems, sometimes you have descending armor class, ascending armor class. So just to give you a value when the opposite, when lower armor class is better. The typical THACO or THACO system. So they have 8 armor class, right? But what if the armor is of better quality? Now they have 6 armor class. Maybe they did invest quite a bit in their armor, their suits of protection, armor class 4, and so forth. So you see, you don't need to constantly look up the stats. But what about those NPCs with strange powers and abilities? Of course, that's why I always recommend that you read them through, give it a read through before the session. But for whatever reason, you suddenly start, the characters are fighting the tentacled horror, and you start to look through the stats quickly, like, what? The, the tentacle special attack, and you don't recognize it, and you realize that you're going to stop the session for a moment. You're going to kill the mood to stop the immersion. You're going to turn it into a video game where you pause the game and you start to read until you understand how it works. No, tough luck. You want to keep the action going so that the immersion, as if you are actually there, so that that illusion is promoted, is perpetuated, encouraged. And so perhaps you don't know how the tentacles work, but you know the grappling rules. Use the grappling rules, perhaps with a few differences in modifiers and difficulty. When it comes to escaping the tentacles, maybe you don't know the grappling rules. Well, tough luck. Maybe now you handle it as an attack roll, simple attack roll. If the enemy succeeds, now the characters are entangled and snared in the tentacles. They're trapped, and they need to carry out strength checks in the next round to see if they free themselves, or maybe they attempt something more creative or desperate. Maybe they start to stab or hack at the tentacles with their weapons. So have confidence. You are the dungeon master, you are the game master, you are the referee, you are calling the shots. You don't need to look up complicated powers. It's much better, in my opinion, if you already read the powers beforehand. But sometimes you surprise yourself coming up with even better rules for those powers because you decided to improvise instead of stopping the session, right? So this applies to any other system, not only the 20 based system, depending if it's a D100 system, D6 system, just apply similar values, judgment calls. It's all about, you need an attack value. Well, +1, +2, +3, depending on the power, the skill, the proficiency of the NPC. When it comes to skills, you don't need to look or memorize all of these skills for a particular non-player character. Give them a read through. If you can reference them quickly, that's great. If not, well, that character, he comes from the wilderness. He is a bit like a forester type of character. So he's obviously quite proficient when it comes to climbing, jumping, tracking, sneaking. So you can add values or modifiers to represent that expertise. Have that confidence. You are the master of the game. You are playing the role of the entire world, and you are, if needed, coming up with those values for the non-player characters, coming up with those powers. If you don't remember how a spell works, well, this non-player character now has a different variation of the spells that the players usually expect to see in the game. It applies to everything. So thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative and entertaining. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the Super Thanks button. Take a look at the information in the description, the pinned comment, like, subscribe. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, in tabletop role-playing games, you are not telling stories about your characters. You are experiencing the game world as your characters. Once again, thank you and see you later.